Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah, we continue with our pop-up lecture, if you want to call it that, but actually I like to call it Yawm al-Fa'ida, a day of benefit, bi'idhnillah, as also bi-naqlim, or bi-kalima, yani bi-jihad, also by way of the pen and the way of speaking, a form of jihad, if whatnot, that can be considered an act of ibadah, being as though again, nahnu mutakifin, also as well, those who are participating in itikaf and those who are taking advantage of these last 10 nights of Ramadan. This particular topic, alhamdulillah, that we've chosen, how do the scholars, past and present, understand the usage of the term Salafi or the word Salafi, is very important and pertinent to our time, because we're living in a time of separation and confusion, trials and tribulations. We ask Allah Jalla wa Ala to allow us to be on our scale, bi'idhnillah. Now this talk here that we're going to be talking about, which is our third talk, bi'idhnillah, is going to be talking about do the scholars, past and present, call themselves or refer to themselves as Salafi? Do they call themselves Salafi? Inshallah. We're going to read some of the kalam of the ulama of the past in terms of using the term Salafi or applying it to themselves. But before we get into that, inshallah ta'ala, we're going to re-quote the statement that we wrote about Shaykh Islam Ibn Tyamiyyah, rahmatullah ta'ala, as we began to say before. And he mentioned that la aib, in this statement, he said, la aib على من أذهب مذهب سلف وانتسب إليه وأعتزي إليه بل يجب قبول ذلك منه باتفاق فإن مذهب سلف لا يكون إلا حقا. And we talked about this earlier, that Ibn Taymiyyah, rahimahullah, he said that there is no fault on the person for making it known or apparent that he followed the madhab of the Salaf and ascribing himself to it, making ascription to it, and sticking to that. He said rather it is obligatory that this be accepted from him, and this is bi'ittifaq, as your unanimous agreement, because rather the madhab of the Salaf la yakuna illa haqqan, it is nothing except but the truth. That the madhab of the Salaf, the methodology of the Salaf, is nothing but the truth. He mentioned this in Majmu' al-Fatawa. وقال وكيع, for those who want to know, he's Sheikh of Ibn Shafi'i. في ترجمة إسماعيل بن حماد بن أبي حنيفة كان إسماعيل ابن حماد بن أبي حنيفة سلفيا صحيحا. So this word was used, in this terminology was used by the teacher of Imam Shafi'i when he spoke about Ismail ibn Hamad ibn Abi Hanifa. He said about Ismail ibn Hamad Abi Hanifa, he said he was Salafiyan Sahihan. He was Salafiyan Sahihan. Alright? And this come by way of the book known as Akhbar al-Qada. He was Salafiyan. So he used the term Salafi. So we see that even back then, they will apply or refer to their contemporaries and things like that as Salafi. And he was Sahihan. He said, وَقَدْ وَصَفَ الذَّهَبِي فِي بَعْضِ كُتُبِهِ فِي تَرْجِمَ جَمَاعَةٍ مِنْ أَهْلِ الْعِلْمِ بِأَنَّهُ كَانُوا سَلَفِيِّينَ وَمِنْ ذَلِكَ. Also we find that Imam Dhahabi, in his book, he also will use the terminology and explaining some of the biographies of the people of knowledge, بِأَنَّهُمْ كَانُوا سَلَفِيِّينَ, that they were Salafi. He will confirm that they were Salafi. From that is what Imam Dhahabi said about the autobiography of Ibn Daraqutni. He said, لم يدخل رجل أبدا في علم كلام ولا الجدال ولا خاض في ذلك بل كان سلفيا. He said that this individual, Imam Daraqutni, was not a man that ever entered upon he never entered upon the rhetoric, the kalam of the people of kalam, the speech of the people of the kalam, nor did he argue argumentation, nor was he one who given to folder and qawda and argumentation with the people that wasn't upon that was correct. Fi dhalika, he said rather this individual was a Salafi. He was Salafiyan, and he mentioned this in his famous text, which is known as Sir al-A'lam wa-Nubala. وقال رحمه الله في ترجمة Ibn Hubayra. He also said in the biography of Ibn Hubayra, Ibn Dhahabi said about him, وَكَانَ يَعْرِفُ مَذْهَبْ وَعَرَبِيَّةً وعروض سلفيا أثريا. He said about him that he was known, his madhab was known, and he was known for Arabic, meaning he was skilled in the Arabic language. And also he was Salafiyan and he was Athariyan. وقال رحمه الله في ترجمة محمد ibn Muhammad. He also said about in the biography of the scholar known as Muhammad ibn Muhammad, وكان دينا خيرا سلفيا محيبا. That he said that he was a man that was upright upon the correct religion. His religion was good, and he was also Salafi. And this is mentioned in the Mu'jam al-Shuyukh. And he said, وقال رحمه الله في ترجمة يحيى بن إسحاق. Also in the biography of Yahya ibn Ishaq, he said, وكان عارفا بالمذهب وخيرا متواضعا سلفيا حميد الأحكام. He said about him that he was arif, and he was knowledgeable, he was a scholar of the madhab. Alright? Khayran. He was also known to be mutawadiyan, humble. He was, he had humility. And he was Salafi. Alright? The aqwal ahlu ilm mu'asirin. And then, we're going to move on to that was the scholars using the term back then. We see that even Sheikh Islam Ibn Tyamiyyah, he used the term Salafi, saying there was nothing wrong with it. We also see that Imam Dhahabi, he used it. And also seen that Imam Waqi', the teacher of Imam Shafi, used it. But I want to bring your attention. Notice that the ones that were using it was talking about other scholars and other people. It wasn't the scholars themselves that was applying it to themselves. They were talking about such and such was Salafi. And we mentioned this before about the statement of Abdullah ibn Abbas, rahimahullah, ta'ala, that فَإِنَّهُ Salafi. For a person is Salafi, meaning they can attest by his works and by the things that he put forth that he was Salafi in action. He followed the Salaf. Because when you review a person, as the ulama said, when you want to know, especially when we talk about a scholar, when you want to know what a person is upon, just go back to his works.
Exactly. He put the work in.
Let's go examine his works, examine his actions. Look at what he did. Is his actions, is his statements, is his works is in alignment and agreement with that of the Salaf?
Exactly.
Is it agreement with Kitab with Sunnah?
That is scripture.
Is that there? Then look at that. For then they will apply the hukm who was Salafi. Alright? Who was Salafi. Alright, for the people of our time, then we know them well. سئل الشيخ مقبل بن هادي الوادعي رحمه الله تعالى عن حكم انتساب إلى السلفية وتسمى بها. Sheikh Muqbil ibn Hadi al-Wadi'i, rahimahullah, he was asked about the ruling of ascribing yourself to Salafiyya and taking on the name. So he responded by saying, أمر طيب سواء انتسبت إلى سلفية أم السنة. وهذه السنة. He said, وهذه النسبة ليس كنسبة حزبيين. In this particular answer, he said that this is a good. He said, Amru Tayyib Sawa. This is a good affair. Meaning, it's saying whether you ascribe yourself to Salafiyya or to the Sunnah. Whether you ascribe yourself saying you Sunni or ascribing yourself saying you Salafi, he's saying that this is something in relation. وَهَذَا النِّسْبَةِ لَيْسَ كَالنِّسْبَةِ. He said that this description is not like the description of the Hizbiyyin. This is not like the description of the Hizbiyyin. Meaning that for those who take the description Sunni or Salafi, don't mean that they start in a new Hizb.
No.
It's not like the Hizbiyyin, like Ikhwani, Tablighi,
no.
Right? Like that. Man, it's not, he's saying it doesn't mean that. By the permission of Allah Jalla wa Ala. Also, this can be found on a cassette that he did, which is titled At-Tahdhiru min al-Bid'ah, the warning against innovation. On the second cassette, it also could be found. And Shaykh Uthaymeen, rahimahullah, he said in his explanation to a famous poem on Aqidah by Imam Safarini, Ash-Shartu Awwal, on the first cassette, he said, Ma nasruhu man hum ahlu athar. Who are the people of the athar? Remember before, a person who followed the athar. Who are the people of the athar? Hum alladhina ittaba'u athar. They are the people who follow the athar. اتبعوا كتاب والسنة وأقوال الصحابة رضي الله تعالى عنهم. هذا لا يتأنى في أي فرقة من الفرق إلا على السلفيين الذين ألزموا طريق السلف. Shaykh Uthaymeen said there are those who follow the book and the sunnah and the statements of the Sahabas, Ridwanullah ta'ala alayhim. وهذا, and this is not to be confused in dealing with any of the different groups from the different sects, except that those who are part of the Salafiyin, those who cling firmly to the path or methodology of the Salaf. وقال Ibn, he said also, وقال Ibn Uthaymeen, he also said in another place known as لقاء الباب المفتوح السلفي من عقد بمذهب السلف عقيدة وقول وعمل في أي مكان. He says, so the Salafi now, he's saying that the one who is a Salafi who can use this terminology is the one who what? Take his methodology from the Salaf, and what are that?
Mm-hmm.
Their belief,
Mm-hmm.
their statement,
Mm-hmm.
their action, no matter in whatever place and time, wherever place this person is at, this is where he takes from. So now we're seeing that in order to use the terminology Salafi, what are we getting from this?
You gotta work. You gotta be what? You gotta be a person implementing the correct aqidah, the correct behavior, the correct application. It's not just assuming or making a statement with no substance or no actions or belief behind it. I'm Salafi, but you don't know who the Salaf are. I'm Salafi. Never read anything on them. I'm Salafi. You can't explain what the aqidah of the Salaf was. I'm Salafi. But you haven't picked up anything, and you don't know. You can't even explain it enough to even follow in your lifestyle. But you say I'm Salafi because you go to this place. I'm Salafi because I got these books on my shelf. I'm Salafi because I listen to this particular person. We're not getting this from the statements of the early man, past and present. We're not getting this from them.
Now, so he also said, ولكن لا يجوز إطلاقا أن ينتقل إنسان من الطريقة السلفية السنية إلى طريقة مبتدعة حادثة مخالفة لمذهب أهل السنة. So he said it's not permissible, unrestrictedly, it's not permissible for a person to leave the path and the methodology of the Salafiyya and the Sunniyya to the path of that of innovation and opposition to the madhab Ahl Sunnah. Also, Fadilat al-Shaykh Ahmed ibn Yahya al-Najmi, rahimahullah, he was asked a question, ما هي سلفية ومن زعيمهم؟ الجواب هي النسبة إلى السلف وسلفهم أصحاب رسول الله وسلم. And he said, وتابعون لهم بإحسان من أهل القرون الثلاثة المفاضلة فمن بعدهم هذه هي السلفية. والانتماء إليها معناه هو انتماء إلى ما كان عليه أصحاب رسول الله عليه وسلم. And this is important. I think this part has been lost.
Mm-hmm.
Even Ahmed Najmi, he says here that number one, when we say what is the Salafiyya, then we said that it's in relation to the Salaf, and the Salaf are the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. We already talked about that. Yeah. The Tabi'een and the Tabi'een who follow the goodness for the three virtuous generations, and those who comes after. He said, however, this is Salafiyya. وَالْإِنْتِمَاءُ إِلَيْهَا مَعْنَاهُ إِنْتِمَاءُ إِلَى مَا كَانَ عَلَيْهِ أَصْحَابُ. This is important. The association is that the meaning of that association is that you must be what? You must be upon the same thing that the companions of the Messenger of Allah was upon. وَإِلَى طَرِيقُ عَلَى حَدِيث. And this is the pathway of the people of Hadith. وَعَلَى حَدِيث هُمَا أَصْحَابُ مِنْهَجُ السَّلَفِ. And the people of Hadith, they are the people of the minhaj al-Salaf, the methodology of the Salaf. الَّذِينَ يُسِرُونَ عَلَيْهِ. They are those who traverse upon it. فَالسَّلَفِيَّةُ عَقِيدَةُ فِي أَسْمَاءِ اللَّهِ وَصِفَاتِهِ. For the Salafiyya that they are upon and creed is that they follow the way of the Salaf in terms of how they understand the principles of Allah's names and attributes. Aqeedah fil Qadr, how they understand the principles related to the Qadr, decree. Aqeedah fil Sahaba, how they understand the principles related to how we deal with the companions. وَلَيْسَ للسلفية زعيمة إلى رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم فالرسول صلى الله عليه وسلم هو إمام السلفية وقدواتهم وأصحاب رسول الله وسلم يعني قدواتهم الفتاوى جليلة أنا منهج الدعوية.
Subhanallah. So it's not a claim. We got to look at the haqiqah.
Look at the reality.
The application of this individual.
Yeah, that's look at the reality. All for years, people have been saying the scholars aren't talking about it. I'm waiting for somebody to say that why the scholars aren't talking about it. Mm-hmm. The scholars are. If you listen to their responses, they're telling you, you must follow that which the Salaf is upon. Now, if you don't have no humbleness, no humility, right, and no fear, you're just going to be just running around saying, just imagine, the worst criminal on the face of this earth running around saying I'm Salaf. Individual rob, steal, plummet, right? Kill, and then he say I'm Salafi. Add up.
Subhanallah.
Do that add up? In order to take the ascription, you want to be what? Because the Prophet ﷺ said the Muslim is what? Man salima muslimuna min what?
Yadihi
wa lisani. The Prophet ﷺ said that the Muslim is the one whom other Muslims are saved from his tongue and his hand. So to take the ascription of being a Muslim, then you must what? Make sure that the other people who are Muslim, who took that ascription as well, are free from what? Your tongue and your hand. Likewise, to take the same nisbah of Salafi, you must make sure you apply that in the same way they apply it. It's not given freely to the word. And I think that's where the big problem came in at, when a lot of us, alhamdulillah, we was eager, we was young. Alhamdulillah, we heard about, the dawah, and the Salafi dawah had been around for years, way before it reached us here in America. It's in the works of the ulamas. We've seen Ibn Zahabi use the word. A lot of the other scholars, they refer to it. But the way that they understood it, they didn't understand it how we understand it today. Their understanding of it was all about application.
No, not slogans.
Clarification. Right? Elucidation. Right? Mokif. Stance. How would the companions deal with this particular issue? How would the Salaf deal with this issue? When it comes to Hakamiyyah, how did the Salaf deal with that? When it comes to Khuruj, how did the Salaf deal with that? When it comes to ruling by other than Allah, how did the Salaf deal with that? When it comes to rebelling against the rulers, how did the Salaf deal with that? When it comes to the pillars of Iman, how did the Salaf deal with that? When it comes to Islam and the meaning of Islam and the pillars of Islam, how did the Salaf understood that? When it comes to doing business transactions, how did the Salaf understood that? When it comes to being kind to one neighbor, doing those akhlaq fadila, how did the Salaf do that? When it comes to this is how they understood the word Salafi. So when a person said it, what they say, you couldn't talk about it if you didn't live it, huh?
Yeah.
Other words, if that's about you and you about that, you a Salafi. Why would you call yourself something that you're not practicing?
SubhanAllah. So it's not a Superman symbol and a Sesame Street symbol. That's not what it is. That's going far extreme, far left. Actually, that falls under the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that he forewarned and prophesied that the Ummah of Muhammad, rather you, and he used the Nun al-Thaqila. He said, rather you're going to follow the people who came before you, meaning that at the end they said, the Jews and the Christians said, for men. Who else? You're going to follow them so much so that if they enter into a lizard hole, you will enter into a lizard hole. And many of our, sadly mistaken, many of the commoners, they have taken to the fact that we are influenced by, the DC comic books and so forth like that. And we want to put the symbols up, Salafi this and Salafi that. None of the ulama talk like that. Both past and present. You wouldn't find none of them talk like that. Actually, we're going to bring some kalam from Sheikh Salih Fawzan that actually hit it right on the nail. In terms of, I want the brother to bring it up. The statement of, he was asked this particular question. I want you to listen to one of the prominent scholars in our time right now. That there's not a person who ascribes to the Dawah to Salafiyya except that he have the works of Sheikh Fawzan inside even his library. He's teaching from one of his books. He's quoting one of his khutbahs. He's quoting one of his statements. Listen what Sheikh Salih Fawzan say directly about the usage of the term Salafi. I want you to listen clearly. Start with the statement of Sheikh Salih Fawzan. Because we're gonna mention his statement a couple of times throughout this lecture. But here we're gonna bring it for a point. Right here. Right here. The questioner asks. Okay. فأجاب حبيب الله. The questioner asks, and then the Sheikh, may Allah preserve him, he answers.
Let's go to the answer first. The answer.
ثم سئل حبيب الله. A questioner asks, Sheikh Salih Fawzan, may Allah preserve him, يقول يا فضيلة الشيخ وفقكم الله بعض الناس يختم باسمه بالسلفي أو أثري فهل هذا تزكية للنفس أو هو موافق الشرع? The questioner asked Sheikh Salih Fawzan, he said, some of the people, they ended their names with the word Salafi or Athari. You ever seen that? Ahmed Athari or John As-Salafi. You'll see names like this on Facebook and places like that, right?
Yeah, well, there's a lot on social media. So there's definitely a lot of that going
on social media, right? Yeah. Instagram and other than that from different social medias. فهل هذا من تزكية النفس? Is this from purifying oneself, or does this agree with the legislation to end your name with these types of names, Salafi Athari? And the Sheikh answered, may Allah preserve him, المطلوب أن إنسان يتبع الحق. المطلوب أن إنسان يبحث عن الحق. He said the answer was that it's a must that the man or the person or the human being follows the truth, and it's sought after that the person looks after the truth, searches out عن الحق. ويطلب حق ويعمل به, that he goes and searches for the truth and works within it. أما أنه يسمى بسلفي أو أثري ولك السلام وبركاته أما أشبه ذلك فلا داعي لهذا. And the Sheikh said, for as for the one who puts at the end of his name Salafi or Athari and other than what resembles that, then فلا داعي لهذا. Then don't call it this. Don't. You leave this off. Drop it. That's the Sheikh's statement. Allah ya'alam subhanahu wa ta'ala ku ata'alamun Allah bidinakum wallahu ya'lamu ma fi samawati wa ma fi al-ard wallahu bi kulli shay'in alim. And he says that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, glory be to him. He says, well, qul ata'alamun Allah. He said, are you going to make Allah aware bidinakum of your religion? And Allah knows what's in the heavens and the earth. Wallahu bi kulli shay'in. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is knower of everything.
Are you going to teach Allah your religion? Are you teaching, say, are you trying to teach Allah your religion?
Yeah. Are you trying to teach Allah your religion? Allah knows in the heavens and the earth, already knows everybody. So a person who stole these things at the end of his name, what are you saying? What are you saying when you put As-Salafi wa Athari at the end of your name? What are you saying? فَتَسَمَّى السَّلَفِ وَأَثَرِ أَمَّا أَشْبَهَ ذَلك هَذَا لَا أَصْلَ لَهُ نَحْنُ نَنْظِرُ إِلَى حَقِيقَتِ وَلَا نَنْظِرُ إِلَى الْقَوْلِ وَتُسَمَّى دَعَاوِي. And the Shaykh, he says that as for the one who names himself Salafi or Athari at the end of his name and other than what resembles that, that there is no foundation for in the religion. There's nothing, no text, nothing in Islam or in the Sunnah that tells you to do that. He said we look at the reality of a person. We don't look at a statement and a name and a claim.
Let's stop right there. Do you understand what, did y'all just understand what the Sheikh just said? There is no evidence, according to the knowledge of the Sheikh here, that a person takes and say and attach to his name, I'm Tariq as-Salafi, I'm Ahmed as-Salafi, I'm Aisha Salafiyya,
no,
I'm such and such Salafiyya, or I'm Athari. He said there's no basis for this. Rather leave it off. Before all the other speech, you got to listen to what he's saying. Now, how many of us today use the term Salafi at the end of our names or conclude with it? Aki, I'm Salafi. The first thing we ask, if there's a lecture going on, what's the first thing people ask you? Mm-hmm. Is the speaker Salafi? You know, they even got so bad that we start calling the Eid Salafi. Well, you would never find that. Whenever did the Prophet refer to the Eid Salafi?
Nah. SubhanAllah.
It got that bad. I'm not eager just to read what the Sheikh said. I want to stop here.
No, let's stop. Make it home.
Bring the point home, because people, they're calling the Eid Salafi. This is a problem. There's no such thing of a Salafi Eid.
SubhanAllah.
I mean, all right. Now let's go back to what we learned about the Salaf. What was Salafi about the Eid? Oh, because the Prophet established the Eid. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
How did the companions establish the Eid? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What was their creed pertaining to the Eid? I mean, what's Salafi? You can't do that. Salafi lecture, Salafi masjid. Okay, is the Haram a Salafi?
SubhanAllah.
Let's go to the Haram right now. And I want you to go over there in the Haram. All the shuyukh that teach in the Haram right now in Mecca, I want you to ask them, is the Haram called Salafi masjid?
Masjid Aqsa.
Is the Prophet masjid known as a Salafi masjid?
No.
Huh? Is Masjid Aqsa known as a Salafi masjid? Where did the understanding come from? This is Salafi, this and Salafi, that. And I know it sounds redundant, but that's what we're doing. And we have restricted ourselves to jahl, to ignorance.
SubhanAllah.
Because we don't even know what Salafi is, but the first thing we're going to say about the speaker, is he Salafi?
I never heard the scholars ask this question. That was easy.
Individuals said, okay, they named a Masjid Ibn Tyamiyyah. Is the Masjid Salafi?
SubhanAllah.
You see that? All right, so number one, you don't know who Ibn Taymiyyah was. That's number one. Number two, you don't know what Salafi is. Because if you're looking for someone to tell you that they Salafi for you to recognize it being Salafiyah, then something is wrong.
Yeah, subhanAllah.
This is what the Sheikh is saying. Yatlubu haqqa. We look for the truth.
The reality.
We search and see if it's in alignment with the Salaf. If it's in conformity with it. That's how we know whether or not it's Salafi.
Not unless the door is Salafi or the knob or the window in the masjid is Salafi. What's Salafi about the masjid?
How can we in a sad state when we keep running around using the term Salafi like this? This was not used by the ulama in this manner. Go ahead, you continue your statements. He go hard. He go in. The Sheikh doesn't stop.
No, he doesn't stop. He says, قَدْ يَقُولُ إِنَّهُ سَلَفِي وَمَا هُوَ بِسَلَفِي. He said, he might say that verily he's Salafi, but then he's really not Salafi. Maybe he's Takfiri, maybe he's Jihadi, maybe he's Sufi, maybe he's Qadari. I don't know what he may be from any of the different farqa that's out there. But Athari وَمَا هُوَ بِأَثَرِ. That he's Athari, but he might not even be those who follow the Athar. قَدْ يَكُونُ سَلَفِيًّا أَوْ أَثَرِيًّا وَهُوَ مَا قَالَ أَنِّي أَثَرِي وَلَا سَلَفِي فَانْظُرْ إِلَى الْحَقَائِقِ. And then a person may say, قَدْ يَكُونُ سَلَفِيًّا وَأَثَرِيًّا, and he may be Salafi or Athariyan, but he never says it. Look at that. Look at the reality here. Let's stop at this. You know how somebody say, but I never heard him say this, that he's Salafi. Sheikh Fawzan said that's not. You don't have to. I never heard a brother say Salafi. He said, قد يكون سلفيا أثريا وهو ما قال أني أثري أو سلفي فانظر إلى حقائق لا إلى مسميات ولا إلى دعوية. That's the reason why. Now let's go back. I want to rewind it. 20 years ago, Sheikh Al-Albani, he clarified to us the reason why it's obligatory to use the term Salafi. Sheikh Al-Albani now.
Sheikh Al-Albani. May Allah reward him. Right? He clarified the need for it because of the difference of the different jama'at, the different organizations and groups that were appearing. But now we got a bigger problem on our hands. Now we got a problem where people are now using the term Salafi as a hizb. You understand? As a tahazzub. Okay? They are using it as a tahazzub. لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله. They're using it as a tahazzub, as a group. And inshallah ta'ala, on our next talk, we're going to bring the statement of Ibn Taymiyyah and his insight, his foresight of this problem that we are in now. He spoke about it 20 years ago. And many people think it's a light matter. It's not. We are divided because the misuse of this particular word.
No.
This is what the Sheikh is saying here.
That's what he's saying.
You're going to find someone who is Salafi and Athari without making any claims. It's going to be what? In his reality.
The criterion is in what he's teaching, his application of it.
Then you're going to find someone who's Salafi and Athari in claim only, but the reality is far from it. The reality is far from it. I'll give you a perfect example. An individual, he says, he have a local masjid that's close to his home. The 5 daily prayers are there. Right?
No.
He decides to go further away from the masjid that's close to him, just so he can go to a masjid to say, you know, I went to a Salafi masjid that might be on the other side of town. Now, let's look at what the Salaf would do in this situation. Because you Salafi, right? Let's look what the Salaf would do, because that's what we have to do. You saying you Salafi? What would the Salafi do? The Salafi would do, as the Prophet ﷺ said, that the local masjid have more right on you than any other masjid.
None.
The local masjid has more right on you than any other masjid. Now you want to say, okay, how do we understand this? Now let's go to a scholar that you respect.
Mm-hmm.
Sheikh Rabia was asked the same question. He said, if the masjid is close to you and they're establishing the prayer, the adhan is called, pray in the masjid. Don't go to another masjid. Pray in that masjid. We're not talking about taking durus now. That's something different. We're talking about establishing the obligation for the men to pray in congregation.
None.
Go to that masjid. You got people nowadays, because of their, it's a shed. Some people are on the first level, and some people are worse than them. Mm-hmm. You have people nowadays, what they do? They hear the adhan and walk right by it. And their pretense is, that's not a Salafi masjid. Now they fall under the hadith that the Prophet ﷺ said about the shaitan. When the shaitan hears the adhan, what do?
He runs away.
He runs and he passes gas.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're running away also. They are also being disobedient because the Prophet ﷺ ordered the one who was blind that if he heard the nidah, he still have to answer it.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're not even answering the call. So now where's your Salafi at then? Because you're in contradiction of the Salaf.
There's no grave in the masjid.
You're in contradiction of the Salaf. But you're saying you follow the Salaf. You cannot show me that any of the companions of the Salaf would do what you just did. So much so that Imam Ahmed, he said that if a person was praying in congregation behind a known innovator who was a muqtadir, who calls to his innovation, who have knowledge upon his innovation, if a person was to make a congregation, he goes leave that congregation and go pray by himself. He said rather he's a muqtadir.
That's a bid'ah. No.
That's an innovation. I'm going to go pray by himself. After praying behind somebody, these issues are detailed. The ulama don't move in this capacity like we move. When you start doing that, you have to watch it now. So, the people worse than them is, they don't even go to another masjid. So you got the one guy who will walk past you because, quote unquote, you're not a Salafi masjid while the adhan is being called. Then you got the other guy who goes a step further. He's not even going to another masjid to pray. He's not even praying at all. But he just ain't praying in that masjid.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm not going down there. I'm not dealing with these individuals because they are not Salafi.
Yeah, praying in his home or store, wherever he may be. He both won't, and even though the masjid is across the
and
street.
they made it so worse nowadays, Akhi, that you can't even get married. Yeah. Individuals are responsible for women. And they have wards. And we are in a country that calls to zina at every turn. Fornication and adultery. When it's time to get married, we start making statements, alhamdulillah, and start saying compatibility is creed and compatibility and so forth. This stuff has some truth to it, then what is your agenda when you're saying this? What's your agenda when you're saying this? You're talking about an ignorant jahil, someone who don't really understand the sunnah anyway, and then you're saying that this person is a muqtadir, and so creed and compatibility must be there. That jahil might be generally applying to Quran and sunnah, because he don't know no actions of innovation. So he's just ignorant.
A regular Muslim.
So where's the compatibility there?
No.
When you want to talk about the Salaf talking about somebody being upon innovation, we can go back to the Salaf, whether or not did they marry their kids or their daughters off to someone upon innovation. It's ikhtilaf amongst the ulama on that.
No.
We read it. The brother read it to us 3 years ago. It's ikhtilaf on whether or not you can marry your daughter to someone upon innovation. It depends on what innovation they are upon, some of the scholars said. Because the Khawarij back then, they were known not to lie on the Prophet ﷺ.
No.
They were known that they were so extreme in their misunderstanding that they wouldn't lie on the Prophet ﷺ. So when you allow your daughter to marry that person, is it bid'ah mukafira that takes them out of the fold of Islam? Who will you marry your daughter to? Now we got a bunch of people running around here. We know how. We have a bunch of people dating and talking and doing this and doing that, and they're not even getting married. Then they come to you to get married, and the first thing you ask them is, what masjid you go to, brother? And then the brother tell you he go to masjid so-and-so because it's his local masjid, and you say to the brother, well, that's your local masjid, they're not Salafi. So yeah, you're going to have to go somewhere else to get married. Shame on you.
No.
Shame on you. You send him somewhere else to get married now because he didn't use the term Salafi, and then you caught into a catch. This is the catch. So what if you reply and say, yeah, they are Salafi? Well, according to my knowledge, they aren't.
SubhanAllah.
Now that becomes a problem. Now we judging who's Salafi and who isn't. I thought that was only for Allah and His Messenger. I didn't know that was for us. I thought it was only for Allah and His Messenger who to say who was outside of Salafiyya, who was outside of Sunniyya, who was outside of Salam. I didn't know it was for anyone else to come along and make that statement. This is a grave situation that we find ourselves in today. And it goes back to what Sheikh Salih Fawzan said.
No, it does.
It goes back to what he said. We don't care about that, calling names, saying I'm Salafi. We care about the haqa'iq. What's the reality of the individual?
No. And he says, we don't look at a person's claim or what he names himself. Al-Muslim annahu yalzimu adab ma'Allah. He said, and it's upon the Muslim that he has manners with Allah. Look at the point that the Shaykh brings, that he's mannerable with his Lord, subhanahu wa ta'ala. لما قالت أعراب آمنا أنكر الله عليهم. When those from the Bedouins said, we believe, and Allah didn't accept this from him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قالت الأعراب آمنا قل لم تؤمنوا ولكن قل أسلمنا. And the Arabs, they said, the Bedouin Arabs, they said, we believe. And he says, say to them, you have not believed, but verily you have what? You have just submitted. So the point that the Shaykh is making here is that a person, he explains it, Allah ankara alayhim annahum yasifuna anfusahum bi-iman. That a person doesn't just name himself with iman. I'm Salafi, I'm Athari, I am. I've reached that level. That's what I am. No inshallah, no nothing, no application. Just going to a particular masjid, you got some books on your shelf, and hang around particular people. That's Salafiyya to the people. وهم ما بعد وصلوا إلى مرتبة توهم بداخلين في الإسلام. And he says that, and they did not وما بعده وصل إلى مرتبة توهم بداخلين في الإسلام. And because they didn't reach the level of entering into Islam completely.
Because they was deluded.
They was deluded. They thought they've already made it. Wahm. They thought they already made it. We do the same thing. You call yourself Athari and Salafi. You're deluded, thinking that you have reached this place where you can just call yourself Salafi, like the Sahaba, like the A'immat Sunnah. That you just reached that level. You just get yourself tazkiyah with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Like you know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala already praised you and you go into paradise.
What did Abu Uwais rahimahullah said? All these great names you keep mentioning, Sufyan al-Thawri. Sa'd, Ibn Musayyib. He says they see you right now and they probably put their toes in their mouth and get to running. These are the same people you keep saying you follow, but they might run from you. They might literally run from you. Because you might not be following anything that they are upon. So you want to say, yeah, I'm Salafi. You got to be careful.
You got to be certain. And look what the Shaykh says, either it's the wa ta'alamu dakhala iman fi qulubihim shay'an fa shay'an. If a person continues and keep learning, iman may enter his heart little by little. That's what we had. Keep going, keep learning. Just don't get a new book. You got the book's color coded and everything on the big shelf. Ain't touched the book. But I'm Salafi. Subhanallah. So that iman may may be soon that it enters into what? Your hearts. كلمة لما للشيء الذي يتوقع يعني سيدخل إيمان لكن أنك تدعي من أول مرة تزكية للنفس. Look at this. But lamma linguistically means that it's something that's close to happening. That iman is close to entering into the heart. He said, but if you call yourself that from the first moment, I'm Salafi and I'm Athari, then this is tazkiyah to nafs.
You just purify yourself.
Purify yourself without any proof. Without any ilm, any application, any action. Subhanallah. فَلَا حَاجَةَ إِلَّا أَنَّكَ تَقُولَ أَنَا سَلَفِي. There's no need for you to say that. أَنَا أَثَرِي أَنَا كَذَا وَأَنَا كَذَا. To say this, I'm Athari, I'm this and I'm that. عَلَيْكَ أَن تَطْلِبَ الْحَقَّ وَتَعْمَلُ بِهِ. It is upon you to seek the truth and work within it. وَتُصْلِحَ النِّيَّةِ and to purify your intent. وَاللَّهُ هُوَ الَّذِي يَعْلَمْ سُبْحَانَهُ الْحَقَائِقِ. And Allah is the one who knows the reality. Allah knows your reality. Akhi, oh sister, it's not for you to keep saying I'm Salafi, I'm Athari, and you have no work and no action to back that up.
Oh,
subhanallah. La hajata, the Sheikh said.
So hold on, there's a problem now, Eesaa, that we don't call ourselves Salafi? There's a problem?
To the people, maybe.
I mean, is it a problem? According to what the Sheikh said, do we have to call ourselves Salafi?
No, I gotta act like I'm Salafi. I gotta implement Salafiyya. I gotta implement the way of the Sahaba. You don't know me by what I say. You know me by how I act, the books that I read, the shuruh that I stick to, the application of what I say, how I understand Aqidah, how to understand Qadr, how I understand Khuruj, how I understand Takfir, how I understand Salat, how I understand the Sahaba. All of that, you will know if I'm Salafi or not. Go back and look at the tapes. Go back and look at recordings of the brothers who teach. Go look back. How are they implementing these information? If the information is being implemented, how the Sahaba implemented and the Tabi'een, and they sticking upon that, they are Salafi or Athri without ever saying the words out their mouths, according to Sheikh Salih Fawzan. Jazakallah khair.
Actually, he said there's no need to use it.
There's no need. It's in the act. It's in what he believes, and how he acts.
So what is our advice to the people that run around and everything they say is Salafi?
That we don't find the
Salafi lectures, Salafi talks.
We don't find
Salafi
early man on that.
events.
We don't find an early man doing that.
So I want to give you an academical research for those who want to think. I want you to go back and I want you to look. I'm just going to tell you go back 2 generations. I'm not even going to tell you go back further. I just want you to go back 2 generations and I want you to show me where any of the ulama that you respect call themselves Salafi. I want you to just go back and I want you to look and I want you to see, did they call themselves Salafis? Did they call the events, the lectures that they had, the donors that they set up, did they call it Salafi? I want you to see that any of them call it Salafi. And you're going to be shocked that they didn't call it Salafi.
You're going to be shocked.
Big names that you use, they don't refer to it that way. Eesaa said, I was with Sheikh, what you said you was with Sheikh Mahmoud, and not once you kept wondering why he not using the word.
I was with Sheikh Mahmoud when I first started studying with the Sheikh. I used to be shocked that he wasn't never using the word Salafi. I mean, I heard the word so much in America. When I got to Egypt, I didn't hear the scholars using it. The only time I ever heard Sheikh Mahmoud use the word Salafi or Salafiyya when he was clarifying to the government opposition was dealing with the Hukam, with the Umara. Because there was people running around saying they Salafi, but they was protesting. But the only time I ever heard him when he had to clarify our position with Muhammad Morsi, our position with Hosni Mubarak, our position. In fact, when he saw Hizbul Nur, which is Hizbul Dulan, the party of darkness, who called themselves Salafi in Egypt, when they started using the word Dawat Salafiyya, putting the banners on their masjid, the scholars in Egypt sanctioned them. You never saw Sheikh Sayyid Rislan, Sheikh Mahmoud al-Thi'ama, Sheikh Muhammad Sheikh Hassan al-Banna ever use banners and the word Dawat Salafiyya posted everywhere. On their masjids, on their talks. Never, not one time.
So what is the intent by people doing this?
To make a hizb.
Is there an intent?
It's the call to themselves and make a hizb. It's the call to themselves and make a hizb.
Inshallah ta'ala, stay tuned for our next talk, inshallah ta'ala, after Asr. We will go into I think the next talk is going to talk about, is there a set known as the Salafis?
No.
Is there a set known as the Salafis? Inshallah.
That goes in the statement.
Subhanakallahumma. Huh?
Yes, you can read the statement. That kind of goes into that.
Yeah, no. Subhanakallahumma.